Welcome to the Target Focus Training Impact Weapons video. We're going to be going over all the principles of using an impact weapon, which will help make the techniques tape that follows this series seem all that more logical. There's a lot to understand about inelastic force, about how to properly get the maximum benefits out of using impact weapons. Please listen carefully and utilize the principles when you go and start your training. Remember, throughout training, your most dangerous weapon that you possess is the human mind. Everything else is secondary, no matter what it is. It could be any one of your natural body weapons, or you can put in a weapon like an impact weapon. But the only reason that this man would want to use this weapon is because it's going to increase the trauma that he's going to deliver to his victim at that point. That's the only reason you put a weapon in your hands. Remember, a weapon is designed for one thing and one thing only. That's killing another human being. It's the only reason you want to use this. You want to maximize the trauma. You want to be more effective using this weapon than you could be with your bare hands. And that's the key. So understand, the only reason to have a weapon is to maximize your trauma, not to protect yourself, not to intimidate, and not to do anything other than hurt the other man. We begin. Again, the only reason to have a weapon in your hand is because it can provide you with the ability to inflict trauma on the human body that your bare hands can't. It's very difficult for me, barehanded, to really break bones in the human body. Bones are very resilient, and again, I'm trying to use something that I possess, my own bones, to break bones. Now, there are a couple. There's the clavicle you can get. You can separate the pubis down there, which is really just separating cartilage. But to actually step in and be able to break bones themselves, you're going to need some help, and that's what an impact weapon provides for you. You'll notice, we go over it a little bit later, but basically this is providing me an extra elbow, an extra joint, and so I'm able to put a lot of force in at the tip of this weapon and target areas of the human body that can just be disrupted, particularly joints. It's very simple for me to step in and start breaking joints on the human body in a much easier way than I could if I just was using my hands. So again, if I'm not using this weapon for that particular purpose, then there's no reason to have it in my hand. If it's just about hurting the person, I can have the weapon in my hand and just say, claw the eyes, come by, or come in and hit the throat. Or it's just as effective as, just holding a weapon in my hand. I'm not here to intimidate him. There's no reason for me to show a weapon for intimidation purposes. I've already taken my ability to strike at that point. I'm now leveling the playing field, because why? I understand that the most dangerous weapon is your brain, and I show a weapon and have not used it on this individual, I have done nothing to disrupt the brain, his ability to step in and hit me. He is no less dangerous to me just because I possess a weapon and he doesn't. If I understand that the biggest weapon system I got to worry about is that brain, as long as that brain is active, I'm always potentially in danger of having trauma inflicted on me. That's why it's important that I get into it immediately and control that brain. Start creating spinal reflex reactions so the spine gets the body moving in directions and the brain is no longer a factor. And I can do that with an impact weapon. And an impact weapon allows me to do a couple of different things. It allows me to hit joints and break joints. It allows me to, it gives me a little bit more distance. I can do things with a weapon a little bit further away than I can when I'm not, when it's just me being barehanded. I can use it as a compression device. I can put it up against various parts of the body and compress it. It can help me as a lever. I can use it as a good force lever. There's various things you can do that you will see in the technique portion of the impact videos. But I want you to understand that the whole reason is I can ruin joint stability. I can disrupt the brain by hitting him to various targets on the skull. But that's the only reason I should have this weapon in my hand. It shouldn't be for any other reason other than maximizing the trauma that I can inflict. And understand, if at any stage of the game this weapon becomes unavailable, I still have all my weapons available to me, main one being my brain. There are basically two ways to kill a man, either lack of oxygen to the brain or disrupting and destroying some brain tissue. those are the two things that end up killing the individual. Everything else is just a means to get to one of those two methods. And so when utilizing the impact weapon, again, the idea is to shut down the central nervous system and to start disrupting the human body. So there's specific ways that you can use this, and there's specific structures that this weapon requires to maximize that. One being, just like with any one of the weapons that you've seen, either your fist, a knife, a firearm, or an impact weapon, the first thing is that you want to place it in your hand. You want it to contact the hand solidly. You want it to be between the two palms, the thenar and the hyperthenar pad palms. These two areas of the human body, of the human hand, need to contact the weapon firmly, squeeze to make a natural fist. That's what you're looking at. That is the best structure for an impact weapon. And you can do that. You can grab the top and the bottom. The striking areas of the weapon are the last, about the last half inch of either end of the weapon is for striking. I can come in and say I wanted to hit the lateral side of the neck. I can come in the last area, the last half inch of the neck, hit paw, and get a response there. Or say I wanted to use the butt of the weapon. Again, the last half inch there, I can use it as a pommel. I'm going to come in and say break his collarbone. Come in, boom, right there. It helps maximize the trauma. It gives me a harder striking surface than my natural hammer fist at that point. As does the end of the weapon here. When, say, I hit to the lateral side of the neck, the striking surface here is harder than my fist. So again, it maximizes the trauma. I got more acceleration and more force delivered to the target area. Good use of a weapon. The other striking surface that you have is the middle. It's almost like having a third fist here, the middle of the weapon. I use it as a punching device right in the center. Now, there are various ways to use this application, but say again, coming to the throat area, coming in, boom. Again, providing a surface that is harder than any of my natural body weapons, providing more trauma, more force to that area. Good use of an impact weapon. The speed of a weapon is merely an illusion. It's really where you put your eyes on this. We do a drill and target focus training where I have clients come at each other with the weapons. And basically it's a very simple drill. If I could actually borrow Paul for a second. Paul has a weapon in his hand, and he's just lightly coming at me here to illustrate the purpose. Now, it's all where I put my eyes, okay, on an impact weapon. And this will just help you dealing with somebody that has an impact weapon. If they get to the point to where they're already swinging the weapon at you or they're coming at you, you need to know that the illusion of speed is at the end of the weapon. If I focus my vision on the end of this weapon, it looks really fast. And so for me to gauge when for me to come in and strike and injure the human, if I come in and I'm gauging off of the end of his weapon, it's going to be very hard for me to react to that. What I understand is the further I move down into the body, if I say focus on the fist, I come in on the hand, it's a lot slower, but it's still pretty quick. I then go to the elbow. It's easy for me to see when the elbow is moving. And then essentially you can go right up to the shoulder, where I can step in and take action before the weapon comes and hits me. So again, whenever you find anything looking very fast, look to the center, and you'll see the movement completely slows down, and it gives you a good gauge of when you can come in and strike and get in on somebody. You'll notice that on some of the principles of the techniques that we use. You'll see that principle come around, where we're looking. A lot of times, the instructors are looking center line when they're coming in because they're gauging the movement off of their peripheral. It slows everything down. And that way you don't get caught up with all the movement and everything somebody's doing. You just focus on what you need to, which is center line area, slow area, boom, and you take action and don't worry about the speed of the weapon. If this video gets one thing across to you, an overriding principle in target focus training is fighting is fighting. Whether this man has a weapon, whether I have a weapon, whether I'm horizontal or vertical, whether I've already been hurt or not. If I've been hurt, if I can taste blood, feel pain, I'm still alive. I can still fight. Okay, we're not saying you're not going to get hit in a fight. We're not saying you're not going to get hurt. What we are saying is you need to, if you're still alive, pick a target, hit a target, continue to inflict trauma until the person's no longer a threat. And I can't emphasize that enough. Again, Your brain is your primary weapon. Your body is secondary. Everything else, including this weapon here, is ancillary. I should look at this situation and say, you know what? What's he doing with my club? That is my club. In 3 to 5 seconds, I'm going to have a club. Realize, the converse is true also. Just because I know that doesn't mean I'm mystical and I'm able to counter everything. If I show this weapon, I should know that this man within 3 to 5 seconds can have the weapon. That's why I don't like to show weapons. You use weapons. They're not for intimidation. They're not to protect you. This thing is not going to look out the window, call the cops, and tell them that my car's being broken into. That's not why I have a weapon in my hand. This weapon is only to improve the trauma that I can't do with my bare hands alone. This weapon can do things that my bare hands can't. This weapon is designed to cause a fatality, to kill another human being. That is how you get, quote unquote, protected. Okay? So understand, when you put a weapon in your hands, the intent is to do harm to the other individual and to do it with more intent than you have with the ability with your hands at that point. That's what you're trying to do. A weapon is not to intimidate, not to protect you, you don't carry a weapon for protection. You carry a weapon to hurt another human being. If you don't understand that, don't use it. Also, when you put a weapon in your hand, your likelihood of actually killing somebody goes exponentially higher. If your goal is to injure, do something other than use a weapon. Use your hands, use that. Again, if your goal is anything other than fatality, putting a weapon in your hands is highly, highly dangerous. One of the most overlooked impact weapons that's always available to you is the ground. And basically it's taking somebody's potential energy whenever they stand up and transferring it into kinetic energy, getting them to fall down. And when they fall down, they impact upon the ground. Do it right and you can cause massive concussions. Because again, the earth, which is encased by say concrete or tar or whatever the surface is, the hard surface, always wins over your brain, which is encased by your skull. The concussions caused are absolutely traumatic, and when you effectively know how to use the earth as an impact device, you'll always be carrying around probably the biggest baton in the world. So just understand the principles. You're going to see a lot of times, a lot of the techniques will take the person to the ground, and understand that is using the ground as an impact device. Just understand with impact weapons, especially when you hit areas of the body like the head and the facial area, there's a good chance that you're going to cause bleeding. But blood is a very poor indicator of trauma inflicted. Just because somebody is bleeding doesn't mean they're no longer a threat. You really have to understand and gauge the effects that you're hitting specific target areas to shut down the human body. Just because somebody's bleeding doesn't mean that they're no longer a threat to you. Gauge your effects. The immense amount of force generated by sticks and clubs allow for the nearly impossible, which is bone breaking. While there's some few smaller, more fragile bones that can be broken empty-handed, most of the breaks are in actuality leverages, not outright breaks. The stick magnifies forces by essentially adding a joint to the arm, basically an extra elbow where your wrist is. This increases the forces capable of being generated via acceleration. Striking at a joint can traumatize the bones of both sides, ruining the connection of the ligaments and the tendons at their origins. The ideal points of contact are either with the two ends of the stick, the last ½ inch, or with the middle of the stick when grasped with both hands. The ends of the stick can be used for backhand hammers, punching with the extended butt off of the palm, and also as an impact point in a larger swing. The middle of the stick can be used as a choking device when anchored at the ends, or as an impact surface when grasped with both hands. It is important that the weapon you use in your hand contact the hand solidly in the thenar and hyperthenar pads of the palm. Essentially, make sure that a tight natural fist is made, regardless of the weapon employed, a hand, knife, stick, or gun. When using any impact tool, body weapons included, it's important that we focus not just on generating as much kinetic energy as possible, but also in ensuring that the kinetic energy is transferred into the target. A lot of time and effort is spent discussing ways to generate more force or move faster. The effort is wasted if efficient transfer of kinetic energy is not the overriding focus. What this means is it doesn't matter how hard I swing, it matters how inelastic the transfer. Transferring energy is the most effective and felt way. It's going to come from an inelastic collision. In collisions of this type, all of the tool's kinetic energy is expended at the time of impact. In essence, the head moves away from the bat, not the bat from the head. By striking in this manner, we see the largest amount of energy expended over the longest period of time, ensuring trauma and displacement. Force equals mass times acceleration. When it seems the easiest way to cause an injury is to increase the acceleration, don't forget that the structure and body weight you bear with you makes any weapon strike a knockdown. The stick or club can also be viewed as a large lever arm. In applying your weight or muscle force to one end of the stick, the handle, you can achieve a large amount of work on the other end, the contact surface. Much of what the stick does for you in applying leverage works the same as a handle on a wrench. When applying torque with a wrench, the job becomes easier with a longer wrench. When applying leverage with a stick, it's usually best to hold the stick as far away from the fulcrum, the contact point, as possible. The apparent velocity of the stick makes many people believe they are faster or impervious to harm because of the weapon. In point of fact, the body itself moves very slowly in relation to the end of the stick. The shoulder moves only slightly more rapidly, the elbow more so, the wrist quickly, and finally the bat itself is nearly impossible to see. When striking somebody with a bat or a stick, focus on the body swinging the bat to see the slower moving targets. The human body has a fixed number of joints. It's been said that maximum speed is achieved by engaging the highest number of available joints. The opposite is necessary for maximal transfer of kinetic energy. The goal when striking with an impact weapon is to find the happy medium where you generate as much acceleration as possible but are still able to link the mass to the strike using the fixed joints and the body weight. The largest misconception about fighting and violence is that simply knowing these things will confer some level of profound or mystical protection. This is never the case, or there would be no such thing as prison murders. The stick is an equal opportunity device and makes no distinction between the owner and its recipient. The goal of the following techniques is not to make sure that you never get hit. That would be impossible. The purpose here is to ensure that you survive the incident and are able to get yourself to medical aid. Because of the grim reality here, it's also worth mentioning that the presence of blood in a fight is not a good barometer of the seriousness of the injury. Yes, you might be bleeding from an injury, but if you can feel pain or taste blood, it simply means you're alive. Conversely, assuming the man is down and out because there is blood issuing from an injury might be a fatal lapse of judgment. In criminal violence, which is the focus of target-focused training and the harsh reality of violent crime, sometimes a violent act does not have a social precursor, meaning the man might just walk up and start hitting you. The idea that a man might demand your wallet with a crowbar in his hand assumes that the man has no desire to kill you, and that is a dangerous assumption to make. From the perspective of a third-strike violent criminal, it's perhaps easier to murder than to engage the man, and the likelihood of the consequences is reduced if the victim is dead. This is just reality. So waiting and looking for weapons to enact the appropriate solution can spell your death. If we show you special techniques to use when fighting with a stick, you might feel compelled to stop and look to see which solution is appropriate to the problem. If he has a stick, I'm going to do A. If he has a knife, I'm going to do B. More often than not, you will not see the club. The other man won't bother informing you of his weapon, and you will be about halfway through the equation when the bat catches you across the knees. Hit him now. This Impact Weapons video is by no means complete. There's no way we can show you every arc and angle that you're going to experience in a real violent situation. Pay attention to the principles that we used and understand that your main primary weapon in all violence is your brain. Everything else is secondary, including an impact weapon. The only reason to use a weapon is to increase the trauma that you're going to put on the body. There is no other reason to have a weapon in your hand. It's not for intimidation purposes, and it's not to show somebody that you may have the intent. You either use it or don't. The following is a short training segment showing two of my master instructors as they go through one coordination set. I've included this to show you the detail that you get when you come to TFT. I think you'll find it interesting, and I hope it motivates you to come visit us.
You're able to visualize what that person is doing. So you can actually see their arms flare and their head go back when you hit them in the jaw. If you're not seeing that, if not visualizing it, at least what it is that I'm describing here, you're not doing yourself the favor of truly operant fighting. You need to be able to visualize these elements. And that's a very, very advanced concept. I'm sure some of you may have toyed with it or even spent a lot of time with it. I have to give credit to Eric. And as soon as I posted, I hit post, and then I went back to go check it. And Eric's, I just got done doing an hour and a half of this stuff. I was like, whoa! So I got to give it credit to the people who are out there doing it. And hallucinatory fighting or whatever it was. That was an excellent description. And I also have to give credit to him because I never realized the implications of what it was that operative fighting really described, which is what we're doing here as well. He said, well, when I was in Vegas, I think I was doing that. And I was like, no, he wasn't doing that. And I read and I said, well, wait, in actuality, he was doing that. He was out there controlling every element, going slow enough with his partner to make sure he had his balance in control, make sure the reactions were exactly what he wanted, to make sure he was positioning him properly. That's operant fighting. Now, what my definition of it meant, there was no other guy. But as far as he's concerned, when he's fighting with a person there or not, it's the same. He's controlling everything. So, a little round of applause. But excellent job. Excellent job. And that really kind of increasing. Stent just proved the opposite. Which is basically if you can't let something be neutral, it's either greased or rusted, one or the other. And so a lot of times when you guys are doing the technique incorrectly, you're doing this stent rule, which is that you're out here stunting your growth and making it impossible for you to do that same thing successfully with the same amount of output.
So Tom, what's the benefit of going beyond exhaustion if that's true?
There's benefits to going beyond exhaustion, and one of the benefits for that is it gives you a level of realism. In so much as a fight starts usually when you've been hit. Someone walks up to you and punches you in the solar plexus, or hits you with a bat across the ribs. You're not able to breathe as well. You're dealing with all the adrenaline dump. You have a lack of focus in the actual environment. Those sorts of things can be approximated by tiring you out. Now going to beyond fatigue, for this purpose, we also get the benefit of what they call installation. We get to make sure that you guys are just doing exactly what it is that you're supposed to do, because you can't use your musculature anymore. You can't use your superior, physical prowess to do these techniques. You can't muscle it. You can't, do the big guy go and throw me anymore like Derek can when he's tired. After he gets tired, he starts fighting exactly like me. Just he's bigger. That's really the two major benefits there. Get yourself to the point where you would fall down if you don't put your hand on something. Right? Let's talk about that for a second. The primary muscles that you're using can last longer than the assisters. Right? The little tiny muscles that are holding you in those positions give out faster than, let's say, the rectus femoris. Because of that, if you reach out and hold on to something, put your hand on a chair while doing the knee drop or the cross step, you can stay up for longer without actually holding yourself up. So when you feel like you're almost gone and you're totally shot, reach out there, hold on to something. You can stay up a little bit longer. Get out of there before you drop.
How the techniques start, but it's the strike to the vagus nerve, take the head, and step back and hit him on the ground.
Just to be a joker. So it's that technique where I hit the guy, and then I hit him again, and he falls down, and then I hit him a couple times?
That's the one.
I think I've got 1 to 13 of those in here, so let me check real quick. Actually, I've got over 2,000 of those in here, but let me take a quick peek. Was it recent?
It's, I think it's an 8 or...
Is it 8?
Is it
That's
7
the one
or
I
8?
have. Does anybody have 8?
I have 8. Left thumb, if I can borrow you. Right claw to eyes, right to left. Pivot from right to left away. Blinder for the duration of the fight. Right roundhouse knee or kick, depending on distance to target, to spleen. So from there. Sorry. Boom, and yeah, sorry. Roundhouse this way, like this. Left forearm hammer to vagus, to right side of vagus. Setting right foot out of 2 above. Continue. Into left comb grab to back of head. Bend over further his left side, large stimulus, the parasympathetic system, begin to pass out. Grab chin with right. How do you hold that? Grab chin with right. Left step back and around, pivot on right foot. Rotate head counterclockwise to slam him down onto his back. Right there. And then in the description here it says, lay down hard, face up, head trauma, concussion, hemorrhaging, skull fracture, etc. Rise up, left kick to neck. Whack. Stepping over him to straddle his head. Head to the direction of kick. Then rolls away. Huge stimulus to the parasympathetic system, probable vertebral injury. Right? Heel stomp to temple. Lay very still. Large head trauma. You remember that one, huh? Lay very still. Large head trauma, secondary concussion, hemorrhaging, skull fracture, etc. Bearing in mind, you can kick someone with your body weight, especially when you're kicking vertically down. If he's against the ground, you're kicking with twice your body weight. Because for my finger is this big, and I'm watching the two go come together. Very easy for me to do. Very difficult for me to do if I'm trying to throw a dart and actually hit a dime from across the room. a little bit more challenging, as opposed to taking a truck and driving it into the wall. It's pretty much easier to do. You want to make all of this targeting feel like it's a truck going into a wall. If your knuckles are all the way out there at the end of your arm, it's not working right. You want to have your field of vision very close on those knuckles. See the liver, see the knuckles, liver, knuckles, then give them the liver to knuckle connection. And you're going to see that happen. Fighting here means that you don't end up hurting your partner. Fighting there means you end up horribly injuring the man because you know exactly where his liver starts. Rather than going, well, that's how far I normally punch. But rather, well, here's where the liver starts. So for Tony, I'm going to stop here. For this guy, it starts here. And I'm going to go ahead and follow all the way through that liver, all the way through, spin the man around, and look in the opposite direction. Got everything else to go for myself. Any other questions before we get into some street fighting?
The following is an impromptu workout between two of my master instructors at one of our live TFT training sessions. I've included it to show you what can be expected once you've mastered the TFT principles. You'll notice that these guys seamlessly work out with each other, going from technique to technique, focusing on targets, and just focusing solely on destroying the attacker. The following are actual comments from TFT clients that attended a live training session. I think you'll find the information informative as well as enjoyable.
Heard about TFT a couple years ago through Charles Staley, who has worked with Tim and does weight training and training for athletes in Las Vegas. And he's the best at what he does, and he put me on to Tim, who's the best at what he does.
Great. And what would you say to somebody who might want to take it, who might be apprehensive about it?
Listen, there's no reason anybody can't do this. I have an artificial hip, a really bad damaged leg, and that's one of the reasons why I came, because it's realistic. It's not dependent on athletic skill. And I could do this with my limitations, and I'll be able to use it if I need to with my limitations. And it's a lot of hard work, but it was fun and realistic.
Perfect. Do you have any other your own thoughts you want to add in? Or
This is my second time back. I went about 5 months ago in Las Vegas. It was a great experience. And I wanted to come again because I wasn't sure how much of it sunk in. And more of it sunk in than I had realized that first time. And I feel fairly confident that I'd be able to have the chance at defending myself, attacking an attacker if I needed to. And that's a great feeling to have, and hopefully I'll never have to use it. If I do, you know, I know what to do.
Okay.
I came to this group for the whole weekend, and I had a very good time. I learned, I think, a lot, and I really recommend this training for basically more women than guys, because we are more weak, we get attacked more often, because, well, it works for me. No, you know, I don't know how to say.
Well, no, that's fine. That's excellent, actually. Let me ask you this. How did you hear about it?
I heard about through the internet, actually. I was looking for something similar. I saw different stuff in the internet, and I chose this one. I don't know, maybe the introduction, whatever. I really thought it was the best training offer in the market.
And have you taken any kind of self-defense classes in the past?
I never took anything. The class is very good. They teach excellent. The teachers are excellent. They're very helpful. Even the guys, we have been here only 2 girls in the training, probably over 50 guys. They help you. And basically at the end you feel more comfortable with yourself. You feel like you can go out, and in any situation you can do something for yourself more than before. You know, I never did any training or anything, and I'm very small, basically 100 pounds, and a lot of girls are afraid to come. I feel very comfortable surrounded by guys. Some girls probably don't. And I mean, don't be afraid of that. That's the less of your worries. I think just come over, do it for yourself. My boyfriend didn't want me to come, and I pushed myself to come. And he thought it was a waste of time and money. And I'm doing it. I wanted to do it, and I think it's gonna work for everybody. It doesn't matter who.
Great.
Okay.
That's perfect. Do you have any other thoughts, or something that's not a question of mine, or?
I don't know, my English is so terrible.
No, you're doing great. You're doing great.
I don't know what to say.
Okay. You're done.
Just try it, get some information, call the instructors. On the phone, they really help me. They basically explain me everything. They take their own time to do it. They are very nice people, very, very nice. You're going to enjoy the whole trip and the whole thing. Thank you.